Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Guru. Today's podcast is about conquering a negative mindset, turning it to positive, and using your power to the greatest capacity that you possibly can, using your creative power in the biggest way possible. Today's podcast is going to be one of the more important ones because dealing with negative energy and a negative mindset is probably the most single predominant corrosive factor to living a fulfilling and powerfully creative life. It leads to more of the suffering and more of the problems in this world than probably any other single issue out there. So we're going to talk about how negative energy comes into your life, how it gets generated in your mind, and how it keeps you from everything that you want. And then I'm going to offer some tips for you on how to shift that mindset, how to start welcoming positive energy into your mind, into your attitude, and ultimately what will eventually get into your actions, your thinking, your responses, and your result, which is the whole point, right? To experience something different and to experience something new. In my experience working with people, I've come to the conclusion that roughly about 94 to 96% of all of the people that I've seen, and from what I've seen around the world, 94 to 96% of the people think and respond from a predominantly negative mindset. That's an astonishing number. But when you see the amount of suffering in the world, when you see the amount of limitation in the world, and you see how few actually become extremely successful in the world and operate out at the highest level, whether it's a successful business or whether it's an athlete that's operating at peak performance, or whether it's a relationship that flourishes. Those are the people that are operating in that 4 to 6% level. I'm not saying that there's not a lot of other people that can go between half the time in a negative mindset and half the time in a positive mindset, and they can have a great life as well. But the most optimal state to enrich your life, I believe, to the fullest, is to bring it up to that 4% where you dominate the way that you think, the way you believe, and the way you act from a positive mindset. Negative energy is destructive and extremely corrosive to the mind, the body, and the soul. And it will creep into what we're trying to create before we even know it and beat us down to the point where we end up giving up, or we end up losing hope or faith, or get depressed or upset. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest reasons for depression is a mindset that is so negative when it comes to the possibilities of what can happen going forward that it doesn't see hope anymore. So one of the biggest remedies or healing modalities for someone who's depressed is to have a really good teacher or therapist who can help them get back to a state of possibility again, to see and believe in what is possible for them. And of course, I don't have to tell you that depression leads to addiction, and addiction just kind of creates more of a problem scenario because people then believe that they can't succeed without the addiction. And that just becomes another layer to the story. But getting back to this idea of shifting to more of a positive mindset in general, especially when so much of the world is constantly bombarding you with the negative. I mean, sometimes all you have to do is scroll through Twitter and it takes maybe 8 seconds to start to feel some of that negative energy out there. You can get an idea of how many people really are operating from a negative perspective. So there is a choice. There is a way to handle this that can completely empower you in a way that you're looking towards in order to enhance everything that you're doing in your life. And the key is that you can begin to change that coding. So what's unbelievably hopeful is to know that that coding can be changed in any moment. Now imagine what you've done and created so far in your life coming from a negative state of mind. Imagine how that would change coming from a positive state of mind. Because again, the results of your life, to a large degree, it's not 100%, but to a large degree, are the result of thinking over time, actions over time, energy expressed out into life over time that is sort of bounced back into your circumstance. So if you look at the way that you've gotten through life up to this point, you say, wow, I could change that and shift that and even enhance that even more. Imagine what you could create going forward. Imagine what the possibilities can and will be. So the first step in changing anything is I like to go to the point where you intellectually understand how it got created, how it's been created, and then I think you can take the full power moving forward to choose to create it the way you want. So how does a negative mindset, how has that creeped into your life? Well, the number one factor, or the starting factor, I shouldn't say the number one, but number one of three factors in how you got to a state where a lot of negativity has been in your mind has been genetics. Past socialization of the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 generations before you and how they've learned to socialize, the past survival instincts of your parents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents, and the past environment that they were used to living in is part of the genetic coding that got passed on to you. And since we can't go back sometimes and talk to people that have passed on, we can hear stories, what was grandpa like, or what was my great-grandfather like, or what was my grandmother like? And I don't want to speak for anybody out there, but I know that I've heard some things, some good and some, where there was some negativity, but every family's got their story, that's for sure. But that's part of what's been passed on. And then the second piece that's been given to you has been the nurturing from your parents growing up. So the energy just of the general household and how your parents nurtured you from the moment you were born, the energy of the way that you were disciplined, and the style and the texture of the energy that came into you, whether it was down-putting or uplifting. And, every house is different on that. The amount of chaos that was in your house growing up and how you interpreted that from a positive or negative state of mind. Mental abuse or negative talk that you've been given to from parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins, religious leaders, teachers, could come from anywhere. The physical abuse that some people may have experienced in their life and how that was interpreted. And then of course there's been TV and media influences, what you've watched your whole life growing up, those scary movies as a kid that had a profound impact on you, where you would, never turn the closet light off when you went to sleep or looked under the bed before you went to sleep. Those are the type of things that stick in our psyche, and they give us sort of a resting state of the way that we look at the world and the way that we look at ourselves. And that's what starts us on this journey to the state of mind that we're going to be operating out of based on how much optimism we're going to look at the world in. And then of course the third thing is your own personal experience, how you took that understanding of yourself as your identity formed in your young age, in your early teens, and what situations you encountered for yourself and how much negative self-talk you've given yourself. And I can tell you, being one right here, growing up, the amount of negative talk to my own self about what I should have done, could have done, or the times I said what an idiot or stuff like that just absolutely does no good to what you're trying to create and the unlimited potential in front of you. So many people think that sometimes negative energy or a way of negatively talking to yourself can motivate you, but that's not true as much as it used to be anymore. There's a much more empowered way of talking to yourself that can fuel your passions and fuel what you want to do in a completely different way in today's world. The old school way was to motivate by negative talk and discipline and the back of a hand, something like that back 20, 30, 40 years ago. Today, that just doesn't work. Force doesn't work anymore. There's a different way of looking at creating, and I think it's because we're becoming more conscious of how important it is in the way that we look at the world, how the world looks back upon us. So again, the third way that you've done this is through your own personal experience, what you've attracted into your life, because life tends to be a very self-fulfilling prophecy. What you look for tends to find you. That is why it's so important to be conscious of the way that you're thinking in every moment. And of course, that's why I'm offering this podcast right now, because shifting your mindset from negative to positive is a massive, massive shift in the metaphysics of life itself and all the lines and connections that are swirling your way for the conditions you're putting together for your future. So the cool thing is, it doesn't matter what your genetics were, it doesn't matter what your upbringing was from your parents and the way they talked to you, and it doesn't matter what your personal experience is to this moment. You always have right now to decide, declare, and demonstrate who you choose to be. You can alternate or change your destiny in any moment. Now, what I mean by destiny is this. Your destiny is based on who you believe that you are and the energy that you're putting forth to demonstrate that in each moment. That is shaping your destiny. But that is changeable. So once you become the witness to yourself and you go, God, how have I thought about myself? Or how have I looked at it? Or I can't believe those things I say in my head. Can you imagine if people heard the type of things we say to ourselves when no one's listening? I mean, if we even could have a tape recording of it, we'd probably be like, whoa, okay, I gotta be a lot more compassionate with myself. I've gotta be a lot more gentle with myself. And again, for you high performers out there that are looking to achieve the biggest things in the world, you know, a lot of times you've been driven by being hard on yourself. And that's good when it comes to athletics or business, and you have to work hard, and you have to, you know, when you want to go out or you want to eat something that you want to eat, or you want to be with friends or do things and you have to make those sacrifices, that's one thing. I'm specifically talking about the way that you look at who you are. Being hard on yourself from a negative point of view is corrosive and destructive. And it's not true. It's not true about you. The one thing the universe is going to constantly try to show you, that life is going to try and show you, that God is going to try and show you, is your beauty, your perfection, your possibility. So that will never stop coming to you. And to the degree that you go against that is the degree that you will suffer. And the perfection in that is so that you'll ask the questions, why am I suffering? Why do I feel so bad about myself? The whole point is to nudge you to this greater, more expansive truth about who you really are. So the question is, all right, Howard, I get it, you know, everybody has negative thoughts, everybody has limiting views, everybody has fears, everybody's been brought up a certain way. How do we get rid of this? How do we just go forward and have this, you know, happy-go-lucky attitude about life? And I want you to know, it's not about just having rose-colored glasses on and putting blinders on and being ignorant to the truth. It's not about that at all. It's about choosing a way of looking at yourself and the world that is just more helpful and conducive to what you want to create, rather than working against yourself. So if people say, oh, he's such a Pollyanna, he's always thinking happy, you know what, that's a good thing. Now, if there's ignorance associated with that, and someone's living in la la land about certain things that they have to do, or things that are necessary to put the conditions together to get things done, that's something else, and that's up to each person. But just to have a general great disposition about life and be grateful every day for who you are and for the learning experiences and for everything you've went through that has shaped you in a way that's making you understand things more. I mean, the whole point of life is to express your creative essence. And that's free will. That's based on every individual and their free will and their free choice. What can sometimes, you know, be hard to watch or pain me sometimes is to see people with so much talent, so much beauty, so much grace in them and possibility, and then have a mind that restricts them from experiencing all of that, or not having the faith to trust the process of time in order to get to it, giving up too early, not seeing their full potential. That can be disheartening at times. And again, I understand everybody's on their own journey, but the whole point of this work and to offer it is to keep revealing more of the truth. Keep revealing to yourself what is true about you. It does not matter where you're at any stage in your life. That's all been part of the learning and the perfection of getting you to this moment. Key is, who do you choose to be now? And now that life is talking to you more upfront from a number of different sources, including this podcast, what are you going to do with it? And I don't want that to be pressure, because there is no pressure. That's the other cool thing about life, is that there's no obligation. It's just meeting you at what you're ready to hear in this moment, right now. This is what you've asked for. Here comes the information. You decide what you're going to do with it. And whatever you do is completely up to you. But by the end of this podcast, you will know, without a shadow of a doubt, that your mindset and the quality of the energy in which you look at yourself and you look at the world is going to be a huge part of your creative power and how you pace time. Whether time slows down for you and it takes longer to create what you want, or whether time moves faster as it relates to getting to where you want to go, experiencing the things you want to know and create and experience, the joy that you want to have from that. So the question is, how do I do it? Well, it starts with vigilance, the strong will and intent to experience something different. That is a strong, vigilant will immediately sets you on the course to experience what you want. It immediately allows you to see yourself and how you're reacting in any moment as it relates to the way you're thinking, the way you're expressing energy. And it allows you maybe that moment of pause where you can redirect the energy of your response. You can change it from where you would have went one way and would have went negative and dark about it to, you know what? We'll get him again tomorrow. Or next time I get up to bat, it's going to be a different mindset and I'm going to learn from that last at bat. Or you know what? The next time I see her or talk to her, I'm going to express myself in a different way. Or you know what? The next time we go on with that advertising plan or we talk to that client, we're going to shape the way that we express what we do for them this way with this kind of energy. So it doesn't matter what area it is in life. The minute that you change the attitude of your energy and response, it can all change. So the question is, when you're out in the world and things are coming at you and people are talking to you and you're watching media and TV, ask yourself a question. Is the input I'm receiving positive or negative? Do I want to be around this input? Is this helpful to me? Do I want to even get bothered by it or get affected by it? Because the world is going to assault you with a lot of negative energy. Remember, when you have over 90% of the people thinking and believing from a predominantly negative perspective or fearful perspective, that's a lot of stuff coming at you that is going to try and drag you into it. So you have to be ready for that, and you have to be vigilant about consistently putting yourself around people and situations that nurture a positive, faith-filled attitude. Is the output that I'm putting out, what I'm putting out to the world, is this positive or negative? Is the way I'm talking to my kids helping uplift them, or is it beating them down in a way mentally? Is the way I'm talking to my significant other the same way, or my friends? What is in me that is coming out of me? How am I leaving my mark on the world in every moment? Once you get conscious of that, you can have that critical few seconds to pause and say, okay, how do I want to respond to this? Am I going to get dragged into this without even knowing subconsciously, and before I know it, be all sideways about it? Or am I going to look to put goodness out into the world and into what I'm looking to create? Now, to do this, you have to have a newfound respect for who you are. You have to have a new understanding of how critical the quality of your state of mind and energy is as it relates to what you're creating. Because once you're aware of that connection, it's like, wow, why would I ever hurt the creative process from my life again? And again, we're all human. Everybody has emotions. Everybody has a down day. And sometimes the world just gets to each one of us. It's It's a lot to take in sometimes. And we're entitled to that. We're entitled to have a bad day where we're off. All I'm asking you to do is just recognize when that's happening and take a moment for some R&R, or to retreat a little bit, or to let some emotions flow. It's really important that you use the emotional system for how it's designed, which is to get that excess energy out of you. Whether it's positive or negative, it's actually looking to work its way out of you so you can get back to balance. But especially when it's negative. People that bottle up their feelings and don't know how to use their emotions, that can create a lot of disharmony on the inside. It festers like a pond that doesn't move, like water that just sits there and it decays and gets all algae filled. That's what it's like when you have energy in you that you need to get out. So sometimes a good cry, or some exercise, or a good scream into a pillow or something can just get that energy out. So when you're feeling emotional, you're having an off day, it's okay. No one says you've got to be happy-go-lucky every single day. That's life, and that's being a human being. But when it comes to what you're trying to create for yourself in any area, you've got to see the possibility in it. You've got to believe yourself worthy, and you have to be open to faith that it will happen no matter what. Life is going to throw everything at you to test that. I've seen it happen in athletes over and over and over again. I've seen it happen to people I've worked with in relationships who questioned whether or not they were worthy of love and experiencing it. It will test you. Ask any entrepreneur who's made it how many times they were tested near the end, near bankruptcy, near giving up. It is a constant process in life. So that negative test is going to come. Are you going to retreat back into the negative mindset and be one of the 93% or 4% or 5%? Or are you going to say, no, I understand how life works. I know what it's asking of me. It wants me to stay strong of mind, strong of will, strong of faith, and it wants me to keep going. And I don't mean to sound kumbaya-ish or Pollyanna-ish, but it's because life unconditionally loves you. What I mean by loves you is the fact that you are unconditionally supported. You matter. You are part of the essence of the creative, infinite experience of life. You've been birthed into existence. Your existence as matter, as I've said before many times, is the self-evident truth that you matter. So life will never leave you. It will constantly help you through this process. The question is, how do you choose to go through the process once you realize this? Before this, I can understand. You weren't even aware. You were just going through it kind of in a subconscious mode, wondering why things happen. All of a sudden, this information flows into you, goes, well, guess what? Here's how it happens. Here's what the keys are. Is it going to test you? Are you going to have to be uncomfortable for a little bit? Are you going to have some faith going into the unknown of who you are without feeling negative and being angry and responding that way? Yeah. But if you really want the change, and you want all that comes with it from being a powerful, positive, compassionate human being, then you've got to be tested to see if that's going to stand up or not when it matters, when it really comes down to it. This whole process about the expansion of awareness, and the awareness is always about the greater possibility that's in you. Because the more you see it, the more positive you get about things. The more faith-filled you become about the nature of life itself. We could take any example. We could take the sports example. We could take a PGA player that just didn't see a lot of possibility, didn't trust himself, sort of meandered his way through rounds and barely made cuts, to the one who believes in every ounce that he's going to hit the right shot, and he's going to take the shot that he believes he can make. And if he doesn't make it, he's going to go work on it. And he's going to come back with faith the next day, and he's going to get closer to executing it. And if it doesn't work the next day, he's going to do it again. But he'll do it until it comes through. Why? Because he believes in himself. And because he's seeing the positive outcome and the work behind it that he knows he has to do and that he's willing to do in order to get there. Same thing with a relationship. If it doesn't work out, you're going to find out what went wrong and how to fix it, what responsibility you have to take in the relationship, or what responsibility you want to have as it relates to who you're connecting with and the type and style of energy, or what you're trying to cultivate, well, how you'll honor yourself. This is all learning, but it generates from a positive outlook of faith that says, I can and I will get there. So it has to come from a newfound respect in who you are. Be prepared, because when you go down this road, there will be challenges. And let me just give you a heads up on how these challenges will happen once you start to turn into more of a positive person in general. You'll see constant negativity coming from other people. They'll constantly try to counter what you're saying in a subtle way or sometimes a more upfront way. And the more you can recognize it, the more you can just kind of either respond how you want or just keep to yourself and go, someday they'll learn, but I'm going to keep that positive attitude. Nothing's going to change that. And you just keep to yourself. Can't tell you how many times in my life I heard people say things counter to my belief in possibility. And I just kind of quietly kept to myself and said, well, I'm sorry they feel that way, but that is not going to affect where I'm headed one single bit. I could go back to so many different things in my life, and I'm so thankful that my mother imbued in me a positive spirit and essence of what was possible out there, because it's what kept me going through a lot of things that I didn't think I'd get through. There's going to be some constant old habits and muscle memory that you've had, fear of the unknown and being outside your comfort zone. That'll creep in. Someone will say something that triggers you and your blood pressure will go up and you'll want to be that old angry self. And the key is going to have to be to catch yourself and go, nope, that's not who I am anymore. I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going to relax. I'm not going to respond to this. I'm not going to play into it anymore. So that'll be there. And then in life in general, I don't want to make this seem like life is this horrible place, because there's so much beauty and grace in life as well. And there are millions of amazing people in the world. It's just through the 24-hour news cycle and cable news and just how much media is being pumped into our awareness. It's designed to try and get our attention for viewership, so it goes to the extreme. So we end up seeing the worst of humanity, because it's like a car accident. You don't want to watch it, but it's like your curiosity drives you towards it, because your protection method and your fear wants to know what's out there to protect yourself. The problem is it is such a skewed view of the world and what the truth is about the world. And I'm not saying to be naive and not understand where there's danger and where there isn't in certain places, but a majority of the world and the people in it are amazing, beautiful, heartfelt people. It's a very small percentage. But because of the news cycle, and certain news has more of an agenda for negativity than others, it just gets pumped in such a fierce way that we get very negative ourselves sometimes, or we can take in the energy of that, and it can ruin our night. And I'm not saying that you don't have to be aware of what's going on in the world. You definitely do, to know how to navigate it. But context is important. And optimism is critical. It is one of the cornerstones of life. And then the other way that the other challenges you'll be presented with will be setbacks on your own process to creating. So you'll start a business or relationship, or in sports, when you're trying to achieve a certain level of performance, it won't go your way. And the trap is to think of yourself as being attached to that outcome. Oh, I'm a failure because of that, rather than this didn't work out this time because I didn't do this, or this, or I said this, or that, or I wasn't aware of something. So you look at it more from a curiosity standpoint, like what can I change next time? But it's not who I am. I know who I am. I'm going to get this accomplished. This relationship is going to happen. I'm going to find love. I'm going to get to the next level in my sport. I know it, because nothing's going to stop me. That's the attitude. But so many people in the world get trapped into this idea that the result is attached to them, and that's a trap. It's not. You're who you decide to be in each moment. Your past is only there in the experiences for you to reflect on who you want to be in the next moment from that. It's a learning experience. And then the ego is very, very slippery and slithery, and it will try and sneak in like a thief in the night in any area possible to try and bring you back to a comfort zone when you're expanding and you're stretching. So as you become more of a positive person, there'll be little tricks that the ego will use sometimes to, you'll see something on the news and the dominoes will start to fall and you'll start to feel very hopeless about things, and that's when you got to catch yourself. Again, you got to fight for your happiness. You really do when you're on this path. But for those who do, and those who are willing to have faith in how life works overall from a big perspective, which is always about possibility, infinite possibilities, the prize is yours, the success is yours, and it's coming. And it's closer than you think. And then, of course, life's constant test as you get closer and closer. It reminds me of like when someone climbs a mountain. Now, we have a mountain here in Arizona called Camelback Mountain. It's a pretty good climb. It's about almost an hour climb, 45 minutes. And I'm not even talking like something like Everest or Kilimanjaro. I'm just talking about a 45-minute hike. It seems like the closer you get to the top, the more the mountain's trying to shove you off it. Like it's just doing everything it can to push you and test you. You're gonna get up in your time, in the time you want this time, or are you gonna give up? And I can't imagine what it would be like as a mountain climber to climb one of the major mountains. The test has to be unreal. But the point is that as you get further up, your will gets tested to a greater degree. So the same thing in life, when you're trying to work your way into success, when you're trying to reach that upper 5% of the world that thinks from that mentally strong mindset, like a great athlete does, with a great awareness and a great sense of patience and a great sense of endurance, it's going to test you the closer you get. I'm sure many of you just watched The Last Dance that was on the 10-part series, and it really gave you a peek into one of the greatest athletes of all time in the NBA, which is Michael Jordan, and just how at each step he was tested. They lost twice to the Pistons, and in some really tough battles before they broke through. They lost many times. They came from a losing franchise to a winning franchise, but along the way, tested at every turn. He never gave up. And the harder the test, the more he dug in. That's what life is, really, on a big level. So you have to be prepared for that. You have to be prepared for that kind of endurance. And then again, every once in a while, you're going to need a reset and a recharge when the world just kind of gets to you, and that's okay. That's part of the process. Expansion, retraction, expansion, retraction. The hope is that with every expansion, you're a little farther along on your journey. And the key is to always go back to positivity, gratitude, use books to support you, videos, positive music, not angry music, not depressing music, positive music, exercise, goal setting, things that keep you and your mind in a constant state of renewal, hope, and optimism. Focus on the possible. Remember, there's no guarantee on anything in life. That's why you have to use every second you can for good. And I understand that most people, they haven't been taught this. They don't know that this type of thinking has existed, but now you do. Or you may have known this for a while, and it's just another piece on the journey. Or you may be hearing this for the very first time and be like, wow, I didn't realize I had this much control internally over how the conditions externally come together. And that bridge is faith. You have to have faith that's part of the process. If you don't, it's not going to work, because you're operating from a lack of faith. And I mean a faith in life and how the process continues to unfold and how it's happened for so many people. So when you need a reset, it's okay. Go back to positivity. Continue to remember to support yourself on the journey with as much material as you can as you continue to go through this, as the world continues to try and hold you back. Not that it's doing it, I want to say intentionally, but there is an intention to holding you back, because again, the best way to change your world is to change yourself. Because when you change yourself and you show a brighter, more positive view, people have a harder time living in their own negative. So that's why they don't want to see it, and sometimes they subconsciously want to pull it back because they don't want to see their own negativity. But if you plow through it, your attitude and your energy is going to turn into what's called inspiration for them. You're going to inspire them. They're going to say, you know what? I'm tired of watching their life and how good it's gone and how positive. I'm tired of being negative in my life. You know what? I'm going to try this. Okay, I'm ready. And that's how you inspire people. That's how the ripples go out. So really, truly looking at wanting to change your world in general starts by changing you. Protect your state of mind. It's the most important thing that you have each day to creating. And again, it's not about being ignorant to what's going on in life. It's about acknowledging it, but still having the faith that you can accomplish and do anything if you just keep going and keep learning. And continue to live with love, possibility, positivity, faith, hope. This is the state that every peak performer is in as much as possible. One thing about that documentary, The Last Dance, Michael Jordan was constantly positive, no matter what was going on. He was constantly believing in positive. Just to give a sports example, there's many examples in life of this. So mastering your life is about being in harmony with what life is about. And being in a place where you don't see the possibilities, you're in disharmony with life, because life is constantly showing us what is possible. And it's constantly showing us the truth of infinite possibility. So continue to honor yourself by staying as much in that truth as you can in order to harness the most creative power you can each day. Keep your intention focused and sharp. Be willing to learn and be willing to move forward with as much energy as you can every single day. And here's one last statement for you before we go. To remember, anytime you feel like you're being challenged in some way with life, just remember this one. This is what I call the break the glass in case of emergency mantra. And it's just a one-liner, but it's really, really powerful as it relates to shifting your state of mind. When you're faced with any challenge, just remember this. I can and I will because I am. I can and I will because I am. All right, thanks for listening. Much love. We'll see you next time.